Ahoy! The New World PTR Season 2 Wave 3 is here, and this one comes with changes or buffs to the Sandworm, along with hatchery changes and OPR changes. So let's have a look at them. Tragic news, the giant butterflies no longer exist, but more importantly, we're getting to the Sandworm changes straight away. So, the detonation time of the Sandworm pellet bombs is reduced from 15 to 12 seconds. There are two potential mechanics that could be referring to. I'm not sure which one the pellet bombs are. Either the mining ones or the ones that are just in the air. I think it's the ones that are just in the air that you need to shoot, but I'm not 100% on that one. Along with that, the Sandworm vulnerability from thrust weapons was reduced from 0.2 to 0.1. I think this is great because it increases weapon variety. I suggested this specifically. I am not sure why they kept this 0.1 increase, because as it stands, thrust weapons are already the strongest single target DPS weapons, especially spear, rapier, and then for ranged bow. So I don't even think they need this 0.1 multiplier here, but I guess they wanted to keep it a little bit unique at least and have a little bit of a reason to use that. The Sandworm, however, does have some different elemental resist from other weapons, so they might be going a little bit more even with magical weapons now, but then magical weapons have some other disadvantages in the fight, so fair enough overall, I suppose. At least it is somewhat of a nerf that makes other weapons a little bit more viable. And then the duration of the acid line left from the Sandworm's acid spew attack is increased from 3 seconds to 6 seconds. Now, I believe this may be referring to the one that is kind of like a lick where it goes across the floor, and the one that is in melee range. Now, the problem with that one is that it just doesn't do enough damage to justify going away, so I'm not really seeing how that was changed with a longer duration. What I think this could affect is your acid resistance being worn down quicker, but at the same time, I'm not sure if 6 seconds is enough to take you out in terms of acid resist. So again, something we'll have to see in action, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are further adjustments in here that are just not mentioned in these patch notes. It could be that they want to keep some things a little bit surprising, or that the damage value, for example, is just adjusted here and they didn't add it to the patch notes on time. As PTR patch notes are, they're not always completely finished, fully complete. So we're going to try out the Sandworm again tomorrow, twitch.tv/DukeSloth if you want to see that. We'll see how it is actually changed, if it's actually much harder, or if it feels similar overall. There are also some more changes to the Sandworm that we'll get to in a second, since the last time I fought it. In the hatchery, we're getting some more changes specifically to the Hordemaster boss, which was overall very, very easy. I only ever had one group that was struggling with him. All other groups that I did with had no problems with him at all, and he felt very easy compared to the boss afterwards especially. So the damage of the reforged grunt attacks was increased by 50%, that's some adds. The damage of the hatchet bomb was increased by 50%. Not exactly sure which one the hatchet bomb is. But anyways, they increased the damage of the second hit from Feral Rush by 65% as well, and the total health of the boss by 50%. So generally, a lot of scaling increases here. I think this boss is still very much manageable for casual groups. This wasn't difficult to begin with, it's very, very easy. So you're gonna have to watch out for the grunts a little bit more, for the mechanics of that. But overall, in most regards, not really many changes here. In terms of the overall difficulty, I think it's just that the boss is a little bit more in line with the boss that comes afterwards, which is otherwise a very heavy step up in terms of difficulty. There are also some PvP changes. In Outpost Rush, the points that you gain, the personal points that you gain for player damage, have been halved from 0.01 to 0.005. In return, the personal score points for AI kills have been reduced from 10 to 20. Bit surprised here because AI or PvE in general already gives pretty decent score. I'm not sure why that needs more, but maybe it's because of some of the other changes they're making. Because they increased the personal score for capture point contests from 0.2 to 0.3, so that's going to be significant for people that fight around the point. And along with that, there is blocking score now as well, so that is something that affects fighting around the point as well. So maybe they're saying, because we're doing these other things that affect fighting around the point, we're giving some extra points to PvEers as well, so they don't feel completely unrewarded for doing that. I'm still not a fan of the PvE element of OPR, never been, but I understand that with the current model and how the game mode is currently laid out, they have to have some form of incentive to do certain PvE parts for the PvEers. PvP Arenas is just a very small fix here for the overtime sulfuring visuals to better reflect the actual damage zone. Now I am a bit surprised that there's no mention here of the stairs. I would have thought that maybe at this point they would have adjusted the stairs a little bit, so it's a little bit more fair. Maybe this was just a ping issue for me. Maybe if you have good ping, then the stairs are not as much of a problem for melees. Maybe they want to keep this, well, level or unlevel thing rather, a bit unfair in that regard. But we'll have to find out. Maybe this is also not the last patch. I'm assuming there might be a 3.1 or maybe a 3.2. Maybe they're doing some more beforehand. But yeah, I would hope that they do something about the stairs to make fighting there a little bit better. But even if they don't, I'll have to test on good ping if that actually makes a significant difference. There was a bug with trade skill XP when applied to aptitude being doubled. That's fixed. And also, somebody reported this, the perks for 50 and 200 focus for the capstones essentially don't actually did what they were intended to do for fishing line tension. And it seems like they actually made it worse instead of better, as far as I understand it. So that was bugged, and now instead they took that out and give you a better chance of catching larger fish, which is generally a lot better and more consistent. There is another change here that says it's the Flamekeeper season trials. I don't know why this is separate. Maybe this was just written by a different person, but I'm pretty sure this is also referring to the hatchery. I'm pretty sure this is referring to Hadish Asar, the keeper of the Flamekeeper. So it would only make sense to me unless there is another season trial that includes a Flamekeeper that I haven't seen yet. And what they did here is reduce the damage of the meteor shower by 10%, which was insanely high damage for being a meteor shower that's in a large radius compared to its other abilities. But also adjusted the meteor shower so that now it casts at the target position at the time of casting, not when the spell first spawns. Meaning if you move away after you've been targeted, you can kind of get out of the meteor shower before it actually spawns, or at least get away from it somewhat, whereas beforehand it would drop on you no matter what. But these are not the only changes. There are some smaller changes that also happen on PTR that I haven't talked about before that I feel like are worth talking about in the context of these changes. So what also happened is the rewards for killing the Sandworm were improved. You now get 500 Umbral shards per kill, previously 100, 2000 in the daily chest, previously 1000, and 8000 in the weekly chest instead of 2000. You can also see a variety of fixes that had been made to the hatchery trial, to Hadish Asar in particular earlier. One that really stands out here is fixed an issue that caused Hadish Asar's flame waves not to reach the corners of his arena. This is something that we had to use because the flame waves were bugged, but apparently the flame waves are fixed now. People that have done the trial now say that it is fine now and you can actually dodge through them, which makes the fight easier insofar that you actually get to him much earlier in those phases and you can deal more damage so the fight is over quicker, whereas we had to wait in the corner until all the waves are completely gone and then walk back up to him. So effectively, if you are able to do the flame wave part properly, things are going to get easier. And people will practice this a little bit, I think. Some people will get wiped a few times, but eventually people will figure it out and then it should be fairly easy. The explosive sulfur core will also no longer deal explosive damage after it was destroyed, and the flame vacuum ability will always pull the player to him now. They also fixed the bugged and raged Devour drone from the questline. I've checked it, it is completable now. I talked about this before, but I quickly just wanted to show you as an overview. These were the changes that were made to the hatchery trial as well in terms of rewards. If you're interested in more details about the rewards, I will link my video about that here, where I go into all of those changes and what the gear is now, because some of the gear is actually pretty good. In the small patch that they did before that, they fixed a bug that prevented the acid clouds during the submerged phase of the Sandworm fight from consistently affecting players. These are the clouds that were up top. We specifically did not use this mechanic in our fight, so it didn't really affect us, because we specifically told everyone to stay on the middle until the clouds are gone, even if they didn't actually do damage. But this is something that would affect teams that were trying to abuse that. I am not familiar with a single team that has done so, though. They also fixed a bug that prevented the Sandworm's stacking and power that is applied at the end of every phase cycle from affecting its acid-based attacks. This was something I talked about already. I didn't even know it had that empower until afterwards. So I think this is a 15 or 20% empower per phase. So he is going to deal more damage the longer the fight goes. And this still seems to be the case. And now it actually affects his stuff as well. Hail and Hearty was removed for this PTR, so that's now by standard applied to yourself, but it wasn't scaling properly yet with your invested points into con, so tanks had less health than they were intended to. That is now fixed, so that will actually make Sandworm a little bit easier. See some other changes here, and at the end we also have some more changes to the hatchery. You can no longer stone form out of explosive sulfur core. The damage of Incinerate from the Flamekeeper has been increased significantly by 56% because it was just not dealing enough damage. And Incinerate now applies a slight knockback on impact as well, so you gotta be a bit careful, I guess, if he's close to the edge. So overall, lots and lots of changes to both raids and quite a few other changes as well. I think that the hatchery is actually in some ways a little bit more difficult now, especially the last boss, but also a bit more consistent, which is better because before it was more that you could often get hit by very random quick damage and that was more annoying in comparison. But with the Sandworm, I'm still not sold on it being much harder than beforehand. We will have to see though. I will test that tomorrow. Maybe there were sneaky stealth changes that actually make it more difficult than it seems to be. Or maybe we also could get some more changes in 3.1, 3.2 of the PTR waves, if that is happening before it comes out. There's still a little bit of time left until the patch, roughly 2 weeks, so we could technically see another patch wave in between there. Once we know, I will of course let you know here, so consider subscribing and clicking the bell if you'd like to get notified. And also, again, twitch.tv/DukeSloth, I will probably be streaming the Sandworm trial tomorrow there. Also a bit of a last chance to get some early trading tips on my Patreon before I make a trading tips video very, very soon. So if you want to get a head start on any of the things that might make you gold next patch, then this is your opportunity to do so before a lot more people will know about this. Thanks to my patrons who already support me there. And thank you for watching. DukeSloth, out.